Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the STEM Brothers podcast. My name's Kwesi Vincent.
And I'm Basir Vincent.
And we are the STEM Brothers. We want to thank you all for joining us on another episode. Basir, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Kwesi. Having a good week.
Well, fantastic. This week, we wanted to do something a little different. Some of the past episodes, we've had a basic premise and kind of brought on a subject matter expert to interview about their experience in that with that particular area of science, technology, engineering, and math, the well-known acronym for STEM. And this week, though, we had actually a current event that really resonated throughout on a lot of different levels. A lot of socio-political levels, but also on levels dealing with the conversations around science, technology, and math literacy in our culture, specifically in the American education system, and even more specifically with the young people of this country. There was a young man, 14 years old, in the state of Texas, who made a homemade digital clock, and as someone who was an electrical engineering major, it's something that is a pretty impressive feat for a 14-year-old. Number one, there are a lot of complex electrical engineering principles, and when I say complex, I mean looking at it from the standpoint of it goes beyond what an introductory course in electrical engineering will teach you. As a matter of fact, I didn't actually build something like that as part of my electrical engineering curriculum until I was in my junior year of my EE curriculum, just to give you an idea of how far along, that kind of work is. Basir, did you have any experience working with the circuits and all that kind of stuff before you switched over to mechanical?
I did. I had a little bit of opportunity when I was younger. I attended an NJIT program and got a chance to play around with some circuits. And really, this story, the reason why we're talking about it, it's why we started this podcast. Just like you said, the understanding what's behind a clock, what goes into a digital clock that people see on the wall all the time.
Absolutely. And what's important to realize is, to complete a summary of the story really quick, the reason why this became national news is because the young man's English teacher confiscated the digital clock and called the principal, and then called the police, thinking that what this young man had brought into school was a bomb of some sort, an explosive device, and that turned out to be false. Turned out to be false, and the boy, unfortunately, was falsely arrested on some charges of bringing, such a bomb, or as you might imagine, any kind of device like that, bringing that into a school. If it were a bomb, if it were a dangerous bomb. But no, it was a basic digital, it was a digital clock that he made himself. And making a digital clock involves, good understanding of how electricity moves through circuitry, being able to work with things called light-emitting diodes, and being able to get those diodes to light up in a specific sequence and pattern, and then being able to keep time. So therefore, there's something that you have to work with where you're programming a device, what's called a programmable logic circuit that keeps count essentially, and there's some mathematics involved in how to write that program and understanding how to go about actually calculating how time is kept, how we keep time, and things like that. So, without going too deep in the woods, what this kid did was actually pretty cool, and it involves so many different aspects of the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics tree that it really brought to light how absolutely important it is for us as a society to increase our STEM literacy and increase STEM literacy amongst the teachers in our schools and just amongst, of course, amongst the young people who are educating, and just among the populace as a whole. As my brother mentioned, Basir, like you mentioned, we see these digital clocks every day, and it's something we interact with, and we never even think about, or many of us don't think about how these things work, or more to the point than just thinking about it, just having an understanding of what's happening with this clock and what's involved and all the different just having a basic understanding that there's a lot of different scientific principles, technology principles, engineering principles that go into making a clock keep time, accurate time, day in, day out, and then also have different features like sound an alarm at a certain time and all the different things. And when you have the basic understanding of how a digital clock works, then you also then have the foundation to understand some of the higher level technologies that are similarly where the basics of the technology are very similar to the basics of the technology of the digital clock. Something like the screens, television screens, computer screens are some of the things that come to mind. I mean, these are all technologies that are made possible through LEDs, again, the light emitting diodes, and being able to channel electricity and have things show up in different patterns and all the things that we come to know as the visual presentation that we see in front of us. So
it's amazing how all of that is numbers, not to deviate. I remember one of the first projects I had was looking at the raw data for an image file. And if you know anything about an image file, all it is a series of numbers. Each of those numbers is a corresponding color or sprite on a screen that come together and make up a digital picture. Something like that. It's amazing to think about that. And all of the programs behind that are just manipulating those numbers. The filters that people use on Instagram, it's math behind there. It's math doing the filtering and adding that shade and changing the color. It's all math.
Right. Exactly. And see, this conversation that we're having right now, that again, to just like you said, that's why we created this podcast, to have a place where these conversations could at least be started so that you can hear two people have conversations about the STEM in our everyday lives and how it impacts our everyday lives. Because, quite frankly, we're not saying that, obviously, not everybody's going to go out there and be an engineer who builds some type of electronic device, or, is a scientist who's going to discover the next great gadget or what have you. That's not the purpose of STEM, and that's not what we're preaching in this podcast. What we are preaching, though, is an increase in the way we think about science, technology, engineering, and math. Meaning that it's not thought of as just something for a certain segment of the population to worry about. Whatever, super smart people, or whatever is some term, some of the derogatory terms of nerd or egghead or things like that. That's how the sciences and the math and all that kind of stuff has been perceived. But these things are not just for a certain segment to understand. It's for all of us to understand what it means to be educated in our world today. That definition has to change from what it's been. You know, it's not just reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. We interact with technology on a daily basis. And I'm not just talking about electronic technology, all types of stuff, even the earth sciences, right? We hear debates every day in the news about global warming. When you go and for young people listening to this or people who are in a position now, when you go out and me and my wife just recently were looking at buying a new car. And one of the things that we're considering, right, is the gas mileage, not only from the standpoint of, or the fuel efficiency, not only from the standpoint of cost effectiveness of being able to fill up the tank and all that stuff, but we're concerned about the environment. We want to know what kind of impact we're going to have, what kind of carbon footprint we're going to be leaving in terms of the fossil fuels that a vehicle would consume. So.
And the importance of that is that the literacy for the science, technology, engineering, and math is important not only for us who are older to understand, but to make sure that we inspire our youth to learn about that technology, so as they grow up, they're able to control and live in it, and then eventually even those can learn how to create more and move on to the next thing.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why we created this podcast, to reiterate once again, and that's why getting back to this episode, that's why we wanted to have this particular episode and have a discussion inspired by the young man Ahmed Muhammad's the story that came from his unfortunate incident in Dallas, Texas. That's why we wanted to have a conversation around the most effective ways, or some of the ways that we have found to be the most effective, to the ways in which to engage young people in conversations about STEM, to inspire them to be more engaged in the sciences. So we wanted to share our experience. We wanted to share some of the information we know, just from either taking part in certain programs or just hearing about other programs through friends and associates and things like that. And so with that in mind, what we wanted to do is not just give you our perspective, me and my brothers, but we wanted to bring in another perspective. And so we asked our guests from from the previous podcast, depending on what order you listen to these in. It's Dr. Tonye Briggs, who previously did a podcast with us where she talked about her experiences in the biomedical engineering field. Tonye has her PhD in biomedical engineering from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, and she's an expert in biomaterials and tissue engineering, as well as regenerative medicine. I encourage you, it's episode 4 of our podcast. I strongly encourage you to go, if you haven't heard that already, go listen to that first conversation we had with Tonye. It was incredible. But we wanted to bring her back because we got such great feedback from that episode. Wanted to bring her back and bring her into this conversation about informing and inspiring young people to increase their STEM literacy, and as well as pursue opportunities to seek further education in STEM-related majors, as well as STEM-related careers. So when we come back, we will have Dr. Tonye Briggs join us, and we will continue the conversation. We will be right back. Hello and welcome back. And as promised, we have on the line with us Dr. Tonye Briggs. Tonye, how are you today?
I'm great.
Thank you again.
It's been a great day. Yeah.
Thank you. It is a great day today. The weather was absolutely gorgeous.
It was great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for joining us again this week. We got a really good response from the last episode we recorded with you, and we wanted to have you back again for what we think is a pretty interesting discussion, given some of the headlines that have recently come out about a story that involved a young man in Texas who was arrested because his science project that he took up on his own of building a digital clock was mistaken for a bomb. And and so this 14-year-old unfortunately was because of this mistaken mistaken evaluation of the device that he had, was detained, and it was sort of an ugly incident. But without going too much into sort of socio-political elements of the story, what I thought was pretty interesting was the president's reaction and how it relates to some of the topics that we talk about on this show. And for those who did not see, the president tweeted out the following in reaction to this story: "Cool clock, Ahmed. Want to bring it to the White House? We should inspire more kids like you to like science. It's what makes America great."
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
That's a great statement right there. Well, we should encourage more kids into the science.
Right.
And that's really what we're trying to do here. What encourages people to get into science? So how can we do that?
Well, I think it's just fostering that natural curiosity that kids have. And some kids have a more developed sense of curiosity for technical things than others. And then the ones that do, that just foster it, support it, by toys that are educational and not just, video games that are just shoot 'em up. Maybe some video games that are educational that have a component where you can learn science and math, and supporting programs that foster education in science and math and technology, as well as the arts. And I think it's good to have a balanced approach. I don't think it's the best thing to just focus one-sided on science, math, and education, science, math, and technology. I think it's good to be a balance as well. But if you have that proclivity for that, I think it's to start young and start early.
What can you think back to some of the things that you encountered that got you interested in the sciences as a younger person?
The younger version of me. I think it helped that my parents were both engineers.
Okay.
So I think, I don't know, maybe that had an unfair advantage because that was my upbringing, was more geared to follow their path in a way. But otherwise, I did have that natural. I had that natural curiosity for the biological sciences. My parents were more technical in nature, with more of like the electrical engineering side. So I remember one of the first toys I got. Well, maybe not one of the first. Like I think when I was like 8 or 9, I got like a toy microscope, which was like really great for me back then. And then growing up and going to middle school, going through middle school, I participated in several programs because I think I took like the PSATs or something like that, and it kind of put me in some type of, I don't know, ranking system, and then that opened the door to different programs that you can participate in. So I participated in several programs in middle school and high school, and so that was my to turn off my text message notification. Anyway, so my parents were supportive of that. And even though my peer groups, my peers and my friends may have not thought that was cool, I had the support of my parents and some of my other peers that were more into that realm to support me through that. So, it started early for me, and I just continued with it throughout my education and my career. And this was before the days of internet, so the early 90s. So, my mom and I would I don't know how we would find these things. I think we went to the library and found programs that were free or low cost. I know I did the NJIT summer programs, and these were free back then. And I don't know how it is right now, which is kind of a foreshadowing because that's where I ended up getting my degrees from. But I went there when I was 12 and 13. I think I did 2 summers there. And those were great programs for I know one particular program was specifically for females in the sciences and engineering. And I think the other one was co-ed, but those were great places to get my start into the sciences and engineering.
That was a great addition. Tonye, I actually did the NJIT summer program for 2 summers as well. Yeah. Okay. I remember doing little projects like that. We started building circuits and doing things.
Right. Yeah, I still remember those. These were over 20 years. I still remember some of the things we did, and like I said, foreshadowing. I did not know that I was going to be walking the same hallways as 20 years later, going through grad school. But I still remember some friends and just going through that and really being open to what are the possibilities, not just learning something, but learning what the possibilities were. So that was a big thing for me.
That's a great point, and getting it started early. I think you mentioned a really good aspect of toys, and I remember, Kwesi, I don't know if you remember playing with Legos or doing those.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the real simple kind, and I know now there's advanced ones. There's a system called Little Bits Electronics, and I know that mixes a little bit of the interconnectivity, so you can make internet-connected devices, and you can do a wide variety of projects.
Yes.
Oh, wow, really?
I know they have really cheaper versions. Raspberry Pi is kind of the background to a lot of the digital technology you can get in the comp sci now, and those are the independent versions of the toys that you can get for your teenagers who are also interested in getting into electronics.
Oh, wow. I feel like I missed out. I was born in a different decade.
Well, absolutely.
Anyway, that's good for the kids now.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, when I see a lot of the resources that are out there, and I think that's one of the things also that hopefully folks listening to this could keep in mind is that there's so many resources out there. There's not a scarcity of resources. It's just having the information and the knowledge that they're out there. Right.
Absolutely. If I was able to find these things 20 something years ago, going to the library and getting snail mail about, XYZ program. And now it's, at your fingertips on your phone, just Googling STEM programs, summer, after school in your area, or you can even travel. I remember back in the day with some of these programs, you can go to different universities. And so I think that it's just a matter of looking and being resourceful and being open-minded and having a supportive network of, starts with your family and it goes from there.
Yes.
You touched on an interesting point, and I think we dealt a little bit with that as well, is the support. And that's why I'm glad the president did stand up for this individual. I think a lot of times there are still some areas where this type of education or this type of field is not necessarily encouraged how we want it to be.
Right. Yeah, it's not the coolest, sexiest thing to do, right? If you're a kid, like, especially if you're a female, it's not really the coolest, being in a lab or tinkering. It's just, some people rather, play sports or be in music, which is also great. I'm not going to discourage that, but like, it's just might not be the quote unquote coolest thing to do, which I think is kind of silly because everything that we do comes from technology, and I think that's pretty cool. But I'm saying that, I think it takes a strong-willed person to still, despite being portrayed as a nerd or a geek, to still want to go through, just still want to have that passion for creating and developing and doing research. So yeah, I think it takes the support of family and then like-minded friends. Like sometimes your friends, some people in your peer group are not going to be like-minded, and that's just the way it goes. And I think that's across the board with growing up, being a child and a teenager. So it's about finding your tribe, and I think that's what was helpful for me in middle and high school especially high school. But I was able to find my tribe of people of other friends that liked similar things that I did, and that helped me, pursue my dreams and aspirations. If I had just listened to what the popular kids were saying and doing, and like if they were, people make fun, and that's just unfortunate part of growing up. If I had just did whatever everyone else was doing or whatever everyone else was envisioning me of doing, then I don't think I would have gotten that far. But since I was self-aware enough at that time to find my tribe, my like-minded friends who I'm still friends with to this day, I was able to do what I wanted to do. So that and then having like my parents, they wanted me, especially my father, to go into the sciences and medicine, which I didn't end up going into directly, but having strong-willed Nigerian parents, which may or may not be, I don't know. I mean, that's another ball. That's another thing in and of itself.
Right, right.
But just having that, like, well, you need to not come back with a B or C type of thing, which I don't know. I mean, that can go either way. People feel some type of way about that. But just having them push me to the greatest of my abilities, to my benefit, to my detriment, but it still was able to push me. There's good and maybe not so great things about that. We can argue about that later, which is a different topic. But that was really kind of like, what pushed me to do well was that expectation.
Right. When you think back, even with the strong support from your parents, or even the strong kind of direction guiding you into the sciences, when at some point though, I'm certain that, especially advancing as far as you have in your education, I'm sure at some point you actually developed an appreciation for science and if not a love, then a very strong like for it. What are those elements of science science or math or technology, whichever area is most, drives you the most to do what you've done in your career and in your life? What aspects of those things are most appealing to you?
Right. Well, with the risk of sounding too woo-woo and too metaphysical, but like there's, especially for the sciences, like the biological sciences, for me, it's like when I was reading about physiology and cell biology, and studying that, it's just a sense of wonder for me, just how everything kind of comes together in this world with so many different elements and different species and different organs and different systems. So that for me was that element of wonder and awe. And so that is what really instilled my love for the biological sciences. And in terms of research, and I've been engaged with research for most of my career, if not all my career, it's that discovery for me is trying to solve a problem or to explain a problem or to explain a phenomenon. And it'll take sometimes years to discover it and to solve it. And so that's for me is what is my love affair with science and research and technology, is the awe and wonder, and also that discovery. And in terms of like technology, I'll just talk about maybe like a little bit of the very limited amount of computer coding that I have done in the past. It's more of like trying to, solve something and see something work. So, writing some type of a short code and seeing that it can do something very simple. So that's something that was very cool for me. I don't do that much these days, but when I took some computer coding classes back in the day, that's something that I thought was really cool. So yeah, for me, it's kind of these emotions of this wonder, discovery, and figuring things out, and having that natural curiosity being, I guess, quenched. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah.
I think it's very important, those bridge programs that you guys mentioned, because I didn't participate in those. So for me, I was really, if I had it to do again, I would definitely do one of those as a middle school or high schooler or what have you, because I think there's a greater appreciation that you gain, and also for me, starting undergrad was it was so much about the academics of it and less about the love of the science and the STEM. And what I would hope that one of the things that kind of come out of this particular incident to sort of bring it back 360, bring it back to this particular topic, is that there is developing intellectual curiosity. I think is one of the best things we could do for young people. And so no matter what that is, I think these bridge programs provide a vehicle to, foster that intellectual curiosity. But if someone can't go there for a summer, just even for mentors and teachers out there, just even asking a young person, like, hey, how does this work? Right? Figure out, just take something, very simple. Like, how's this car work? Or figure out how your phone works or something like that. Just really getting them and asking that very simple question, I think is a great way to inspire young people to really get motivated about the science, or at least inspired about discovering different ways of looking at the world, and also just developing, as I said, those question muscles, that intellectual curiosity. Because I think once you develop that, then once you have access to certain resources, I think you go to seek out those answers, and it becomes a little bit more of an enjoyable experience, because you're feeding that curiosity versus, you know what I mean?
I think that's a big thing, just being able to have someone to tell you to, hey, ask those questions. I remember the good teachers in my life, those were the ones who encouraged me to say, not take things at face value, or ask, hey, why is this working? Why is this clock working? How does a clock work? How do I wire this up and get a digital clock to read out a number and keep a time and keep power and display something and show it consistently? How does that work? And that's something that's huge.
Yeah, and I think that's the next step is not only encouraging students to get into STEM, but also training the next set of STEM teachers to foster that curiosity. So I think maybe that is one of the reasons, bringing it back to full circle, why I think the young man's name was Ahmed. Maybe maybe that is why I think from what I remember, his engineering teacher or his science teacher was impressed with his clock, but the other teacher thought it was a threat. And so just training teachers, whether they be in the STEM or not, to encourage that curiosity and encourage students being creative. And so I think that is the next step. I don't think I mentioned teachers and mentorships and mentors, which were very developmental in my other scientists and engineers career. So that is another piece of the puzzle that's very crucial.
One element that I do want to highlight for both of you, and especially for you, Tonye, is part of the reason why we're even doing this is you are the type of inspiration that we're looking to show people. Everyone really, like both of you mentioned, our parents and our cousins, and ideally me and my brother, and I think everyone has realized that not everyone's as lucky, and we're trying to reach out and expand that to those people and share stories like yours, stories like my brother, stories like mine with people so that they have those role models to look up to, so that they can understand, hey, this math class, if you're just stuck on this math class, what can that lead to? No, if you keep diving in and you keep asking why and you keep figuring out more details about it, you can end up being a success like you are.
Yeah, that absolutely, Basir. Well, very well said. I think that is the real purpose of this podcast, and why we want to have individuals like Tonye on here, is because that not everyone is going to have unfortunately, the opportunity to have great parents and people like that in their lives who will, kind of push them or give them that guidance into the STEM areas. And as we see, that's a very big indicator of success in terms of motivating a child to go into this into these fields. If you're, it's not to say that all the time it happens, but there's a nice probably a nice correlation if we did some research in terms of parents who are in the STEM fields and then where their children end up going. So but with that said, the idea of this podcast is that someone is able to take it, listen to it, and pull some inspiration from it, pull some inspiration and information as well. And I think we've given some really good information. Both of you guys, I know NJIT, and for those who are maybe not listening in the state of New Jersey, New Jersey Institute of Technology, I know that they still do have the programs that both you guys participated in. And folks who are in the New Jersey area are certainly encouraged to check out the New Jersey Institute of Technology's website and check out some of those bridge programs. Tony, Basir brought up the teachers. What are there one or two teachers in particular that you can think of that were really instrumental in your growth and development there?
I could think of my a high school chemistry teacher, and I still remember his name. I think it was, Dr. Green or Mr. Green, I think. I still remember him teaching different ways to convert grams to moles or whatever it was. But there's still some lessons that are from those days that I still remember. So he was very instrumental technically, so I can learn these basic fundamentals. And I think I touched upon this in the first podcast. Is just those fundamentals, which might not be exciting, but you need to have those before you go into the next level. So I think that was the beginning of learning those technical skills. So that was, I think, junior year of high school. And I participated in another bridge program in high school, I think from sophomore year to junior year. And it was at Rutgers, another one of these summer programs. And I worked with a professor. I don't remember her name, but she was in, I think, the biology department at Cook. And pretty much was very instrumental in leading me towards research. I wish I knew her name off the top of my head, but I don't. If I find it somewhere, I will, try to get back to her and reach out and see, 20-something years later how I turned out. But it's those early interactions with people that like I said, possibilities. When you're growing up, and you like know the book stuff, but you don't know what it can lead to. So just knowing what the possibilities were, whether you go into that direction or not, knowledge is power. So just knowing that there are other researchers, academic research. But I was involved with academic research for the majority of my career, and so just getting that first exposure to that. And I didn't go into that particular direction of academic research, but still just like being on a college campus when I'm like, 15 or 16. So I know what to expect when I actually do go to college. So that was very, very, I still remember those times, but very helpful and shaped my education and career. So, but there are others, but those are the ones that stick out now.
Yeah. Basir, can you think back to some of the teachers that you may have had? Since we went to some of the same schools, there may be some overlap, but...
Ironically enough, probably our English teacher, Mr. Wiki, was the one who forced me to think outside the box the most in terms of really asking questions, not accepting things at the status quo. A lot of my teachers, when I went to Penn State, they were really the ones who started drawing out the curiosity, the interest in physics and math. In Wardlaw, I did have a math teacher, Mr. Finkel, who did teach pretty well, and also my science teacher, Mr. Helm. And he put things... I always remember him because he would put things in song, and that always made me remember him. That was kind of a different approach to teaching kids that he always took. So I'll always remember the classification of any type of species or animal or being, because you'd classify them by kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. And I'll always remember that to this day just because he sung a song with it. And I don't know, that's just something that I'll probably never forget. And
that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, teachers. I mean, that's just it. If they teach, they could teach something in such a way that it just has a lifelong imprint on you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's. I'm glad you mentioned the English teacher. Yeah, that we both had. But that's great because that also, as I mentioned earlier, being engineering, science, technology. STEM is also, it's about having a way of thinking as well. And again, so whatever teacher can bring that out in you. So whether it, thinking about sort of esoteric things or thinking about more science-based stuff, why certain physical phenomenon exist in our world, right? These are all great questions that can lead you to when seeking those answers, lead you to a great search for knowledge. And I think all that stuff can help foster a young person's interest and curiosity in science and engineering and things like that. So
yeah, and I just want to add to that that is very important for communication. So I'm glad that you mentioned you had a really great English teacher, because I think what is kind of lost in the mix in the STEM, pushing the STEM programs, which I think is wonderful and great, is that we need to have that communication aspect, because you can do great research, you can be the best scientist or the best physician, but if you're not a great communicator, if you can't write, if you can't speak to your peers at conferences, if you can't express yourself, then all that is kind of lost. And so that's something that a lot of scientists at every level is not every, but the ones that were a little bit unbalanced, they struggle with that. And so, I think it's good to have a balance. And if you have that natural proclivity to science and technology and engineering and math, that's wonderful. But I also want to encourage students to also be great communicators, to learn about arts and humanities and culture and music and dance, because I think it's good to be well-balanced and well-rounded. And so we can't do everything in our lifetime, of course, but I think the communication part is a big aspect of being a great, take you to the next level in terms of science and technology and engineering and math.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we can definitely use more teachers in all subjects who are encouraging us to communicate. Interestingly enough, it was the English teacher, English class that that the young man who we started off the conversation, Ahmed Mohammed, it was the English teacher that actually called the principal and got him in trouble there, I guess, or took it away from him, I should say. I guess she took the project away from him, but in any case, just something to keep in mind for our educators out there is to always be inspiring our young people in all types of ways, because just as you said, Tonye, even if you're a great communicator, you could also be a participant in the STEM fields. As a matter of fact, there needs to be more great communicators in the field. So that's great way to, I get, we could go on and on and on, but it's a great way to end our conversation. And for at least for now, I'm sure there'll be many parts from it. But I hope, I think we hit on a lot of good areas, good topics, and I think one of the big things, again, encouraging anyone listening to this, wherever you're at, chances are there's a university, college that has some type of program with what they usually call summer bridge programs for high school, middle school children and or young people, and it's very, very important to look into those. And if you have I don't know how much these programs cost nowadays and things like that. And I know some people may have limited resources and funds, but if it's something that you have access to and have the ability to go to, I think we would all encourage you to do it. Any other final words of encouragement or advice for parents, young people themselves, or teachers who are looking to inspire the next generation of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics professionals?
There's so many, but I would say that nowadays more than ever, if you can't find your like-minded friends or peers in your school, and if you feel like you can't express yourself in that way of being into science and technology and math because you feel like you'll be ostracized, I think it's worthwhile to seek out other people that are maybe, I don't know, social networks. I don't know if teenagers, I'm sure teenagers, are allowed to go on Facebook. I don't know what the parental controls are for each family, but I would urge our young people to seek out your tribe so you can feel encouraged. And there's places where you can probably meet people that have similar interests, and then you can encourage each other. And so I think that's one way. And also to just believe in yourself. There might be some adversity in terms of tests or the last few years of high school are pretty intense. And so I know with SAT tests or advanced placement tests and just going through life as a teenager, it might be a little bit discouraging or a little bit difficult, but just keep encouraged. It always, ends at some point, and then go through college and you do what you end up wanting to do. It's very rewarding to do what you intended to do growing up. So that's what I will just say for now. Just keep encouraged, being encouraged. And also for the parents, well, I'm not a parent, but just thinking what my parents would say is to encourage your children, find resources, be resourceful, maybe ask questions, talk to the teachers, and yeah, that's all I have to say. That was like three things.
No, that's
sorry.
Awesome. No problem.
I was going to say one, but okay.
No problem.
I didn't want to leave any stone unturned.
No problem. Basir,
for me, it's just really following up on that. Encourage kids to ask why something works, how something works, and give them the tools to do it. There's tons of toys and interactive games and Connect Sects or devices that you can get into the hands of a kid that'll inspire them to look into more. So definitely do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Tonye. And we will talk to you again real soon. Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
Hello again. We want to thank Dr. Tonye Briggs for an absolutely incredible roundtable conversation. We hope that her stories, that all our stories and experiences that we shared are helpful to you. Tonye gave some great examples, right, Basir?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just what her experience and her ideas of seeking to ask those questions. That's exactly what we're about. That's exactly what we want to get to.
Right. Absolutely. Building that intellectual curiosity is so important. So we had talked about in the introduction, just looking at the digital clock and thinking about, man, how does that work, right? If you are a parent, again, a teacher, someone who's working with young people, if you are interested in getting them interested in the sciences, technology, engineering, and math, which we should all be interested in doing that, because again, it's important that as a society we become more literate in these matters, and it's we're not just simply interacting with things and not understanding the very basic principles of how they work, because that's not, in my mind, in this day and age, that's not being a well-informed citizen, an educated citizen. So very important.
Yes, absolutely. It's the key. It's how you, like we said in the upfront, it's how we're going to survive in this world moving forward.
Right. Absolutely. So, with that said, we want to thank everyone for joining us this week. As always, you can reach us at stembros@gmail.com. That's stembros@gmail.com. Basir, what's the website?
www.stembros.com.
Perfect. So, again, please reach out to us with any questions or commentary you may have. We are available for in-person workshops for young people, or perhaps if you have a group of adult career changers who are looking for more information on how to get into the STEM related professions. We also do workshops for that audience as well. So we would love to come out and interact with some of you personally. So please contact us. Once again, stembros@gmail.com. Basir, any other closing remarks?
No, just stay literate, everybody. Technology.
Absolutely. And again, you do something very simple and I think I had forgotten to finish that thought, but so I'll just sign off with this. There are a lot of STEM programs out there, as we talked about in our discussion with Tonye, with colleges, things like that. If for some reason you do not have the resources, or you find that a lot of these things that are out there are a lot of free resources out there, But the another resource is just the world around you. So really just asking questions and working with a young person and encouraging them to come up with their own theories about how things work, and then working with them to go back and look at how close their theories on how certain things work are to the actual way they work, I think is a great exercise. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
To build intellectual curiosity and get their minds thinking in a engineering fashion or a mathematical fashion, whatever or a scientific fashion. So. Yeah.
Like I said, look out there. I mentioned little bit during the interview. That's a great tool for kids to get them interested in a lot of these next level, or what'll soon to be basic devices.
Right. It's not even next level anymore as the technology gets further and further along. It's like these are going to be basic things, or we are. Anyway, a conversation for another show where we'll talk about some of the things that are going to be more or less commonplace that right now seem like, kind of higher level things. Drones, 3D printing, things that were only used by a certain, very limited segment of the population will actually become so ubiquitous now that it'll be kind of commonplace to have these things in your home or as toys and different things like that. And it will take some technology literacy to work these things. So it's just very important to build up that technology literacy skill set, and we have a lot of different ideas on how to do that. So please contact us for any questions you have, or to work with us on developing some ideas for your particular population of young people. And with that said, thank you again for joining us on another episode of the STEM Brothers podcast. We're looking forward to interacting, hopefully, with some of you in person. You have our contact details in order to do that. But until then, we will see you on the next episode, and we are gone.